Well, I guess it was too much to hope for 2 good episodes in a row. At least this one did have some substance. It felt more substantial than a lot of the episodes we were getting at the top of the season. It had some forward momentum. Now we're at the day of the wedding. Can we please, move forward? But at the same time, it was just boring and kind of disappointing. There were 3 stories, and the first one, probably the strongest writing, was the one with Robin and Ted. But it was also the most frustrating. I was sick of the Robin and Ted at the end of last season. I certainly don't want to see any more of it now. I guess it just kind of bothers me that there's still this spark between Ted and Robin, but at the same time we're supposed to believe that he's still hung up on Robin up to the point of the wedding, and then he meets this other woman and instantly forgets about Robin and falls in love with her. And we're not going to see how. At this point, I've given up on the idea that we're actually going to see how they fell in love. I guess, and granted, Ted did do the same thing with Victoria and Robin, pretty much, in season 1 at Claudia's wedding. But still, it's still disappointing. Also, it frustrates me that the most meaningful conversation that Robin has had over the course of this season has been not with her fiancé, but with Ted. She still has more chemistry with him. This season is not presenting a very good case for why Robin and Barney should be married. And then they watch the sunrise together. I don't know. I'm sick of it. That speech that Ted gave at the end, to Jeanette about how he's in love with Robin, and if he wasn't still hung up on her, it wouldn't be love. I guess in another time, in another setting, in another series, that speech would have been really sweet. As it is, it just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, because he's still fighting for her, even though he knows he's not going to get her. And even though we're supposed to believe that this determination is just going to go away. I guess that's the problem. He's saying if his mind could be changed so easily, it wouldn't be love. That's a fair point. And then he's going to meet the woman of his dreams at the wedding, and his mind is going to be changed in an instant. So the other 2 stories, there was Marshall and Lily. Talk about a disappointment. There's been all this build-up. They've been apart for so long. Finally, they're in the same place. Finally, they're going to hash out their problems with Rome. But no, Lily runs off, and then Marshall imagines what the conversation would have been like if she was in the room. That is 1,000 times less interesting than her actually being in the room and then really talking it out. That's screenwriting 101! A dream is not as exciting as having something actually happen! Also, is it just me? Or has Marshall never referred to Lily and his wedding in terms of winning or their marriage in terms of winning and losing? Fake Lily says, oh, you gotta stop saying you're the winner or the loser, we're in a marriage, we're a team. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's been their whole point throughout this series, that they want to be treated as equals, and they want to know everything about each other, and that's one of the things I've always loved about their relationship, so I don't know where this winning-losing crap is coming from, other than to add attention to a scene that had none, because she wasn't there. And she comes in at the end, and, we're staying in New York. Resolved. I don't know how we got to that point, but alright. Maybe we could have talked about it. No, screw that. Are we going to find out who picked up Lily, who was in the car? I don't know. I'm going to pretend it was Ranjit, because he hasn't been in this season nearly enough, and that bothers me. So the third story was with Barney, wandering drunkenly down the street and running into those 2 guys. I'll give them points for not doing what I expected with drunk Barney wandering away. No, I didn't see that coming. It was the weakest. That particular story had the weakest writing, but it was the most satisfying. So, because it kind of felt at first like Barney was trying desperately to cling on to his old life. Like, he wasn't ready to settle down and be married. He just wanted to go off and be a wingman. But then, as the story progressed, it felt more like he was really trying to pass on this wisdom to these younger guys and trying to teach them everything that made him awesome, but trying to steer them away from mistakes that he had made. And maybe I'm reading too much into that, but that's kind of what it felt like to me. And by the end, it was very sweet. Although, this series is just determined to crap all over everything that made Barney's proposal to Robin so great. I didn't like that proposal. Made me uncomfortable. The way he manipulated her and made her feel so terrible about herself in order to win her back. But the best part about it was that he burned the playbook. That was the only thing about that proposal that was a risk for him, because if she had said no, he would have been left with no Robin and no playbook. But then, of course, we find out that he still has the playbook, which I didn't like that episode either. Weekend at Barney's. But the playbook still gets destroyed at the end of it. And Barney's okay with that. Alright, fine, let's just move on. No! Turns out he has a third copy of the playbook written on napkins. Which was kind of sweet. I mean, but at the same time, I hate the playbook. And it took me until just now to realize it. And I think it's because it always made sense in the context of Barney's character. But seeing him pass it on to those other two guys, wait. And I got a comment. Someone wrote on my look back at the best of How I Met Your Mother and said, "Where's the playbook?" And I was really embarrassed because it didn't even occur to me to put that episode on the list. And I realized it was because I hate the playbook so much. Like, it's fun, the costumes are cute, and it's silly, and we all had a good laugh, but, in practice, it's kind of uncomfortable. It's really manipulative, it's really underhanded, some of them don't make any sense that anyone would ever fall for them. It's all part of this charade that Barney has built up around himself because he's afraid to let people get close to him, and I guess I kind of assumed that this series was heading into the direction of him losing the charade and just being himself. What with his relationship with Nora and then Robin, but I felt like the walls were starting to come down when he was with Nora, and then they went right back up again with Robin, and he's expecting her to be okay with this. At the same time, I don't want to take away what makes his character awesome, but it still makes me uncomfortable, and I don't know, and they ended with this really sweet music playing over the playbook written across. You know what would have been, what I would have loved to have seen instead of the playbook? If it was the bro code. That would have been awesome. And I know, well, the bro code, still exists somewhere, but how cute would that have been? Passing on the torch of, how to treat your fellow bro. I don't know, something other than the playbook. Another thing that struck me, I was a fan of Frasier for a long time, and David Hyde Pierce's character Niles was married to a woman named Maris, and the running joke was that she was just awful and really controlling, and he was so miserable with her. And they would start to... We never saw her. Like, she was never introduced onto the show, but we would get, snippets of people talking about her, and they just became more and more ridiculous. Like, she was rail thin, wasn't strong enough to lift a fountain pen, couldn't go out in direct sunlight, and over time these descriptions became so cartoonish. I remember seeing a behind the scenes where they were talking about how they thought about casting a person for a while, but they realized no one could live up to this caricature that they built up. So they just decided, they're never going to show Maris. And from that point on, the descriptions became more and more over the top, and it was really funny. And I was kind of afraid with How I Met Your Mother that, with all the build-up to the mother over the years, that no character or no actress that they got to fill this role would be able to live up to the expectations that we all have of her. Seeing her in this role has been great. She's brought such a humble, grateful attitude to the role, and her character is such a good person that she really is lovable. But then my sister and I went back and watched Girls vs. Suits on Netflix, and that's the episode where we find out about the mother's yellow bus, that she does the paintings of the robots doing sports, and that she makes the English muffin sing, and all that was cute and quirky stuff the first time I saw it. But now that I have a face and a voice to go along with all this, it was even better. And especially because she's such a good, nice person. She's the kind of person you'd want to know. That, it didn't ruin it. It just made it even better. And that, that's exactly what I was hoping for. And I'll say, if they did one thing right this season, thankfully it was the mother's character. But this was just a disappointing episode. It wasn't funny, it wasn't particularly entertaining. It was okay. It didn't feel like a waste of time, I guess, like so many other episodes have. But it still wasn't enjoyable, particularly enjoyable to watch. I'm hoping at the very least that the series finale will be wonderful. Just a little bit more of the mother. I doubt we're gonna see how they fell in love at this point. It just there's no time left. There's 4 or 5 episodes left. I was hoping that we would get to see The Wedding Bride 3. We were going back and tying up all these loose ends. That's the one I really wanted to see. The first time that Ted said that he loved her. How is that not something that we're paying tribute to in this final season? Oh, speaking of which, I've been harping on this locket thing since the very beginning. It was introduced in the second episode, but that's the conclusion? Okay. Am I the only one who was really disappointed? I thought, I don't know. I guess I was picturing Ted was going to go out to California and see Stella and go on this quest of self-discovery. And maybe he would figure out why he's been so hung up on Robin and how he needs to let her go. It's more like she was dragged away from him while he was kicking and screaming in protest, but we've waited all season long for that. James has disappeared from the story entirely. Oh, and there's an episode coming up of someone commented on my last review and said there's an episode coming up called Gary Blauman. I had completely forgotten who Gary Blauman was. Why are we getting an episode that's all about him? I don't know. This season is such a disappointment. Please let me know what you thought of it. I'll see you next week. Let's hope that we get at least one more good episode out of this. At least the series finale has got to be good, right? All right. Well, I'll see you next time. Take care.